Welcome in, everybody, to Leading Off right here on Fantasy Pros. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia. That, of course, is Dinger Dan Harris, and it's you. We got a big trade that went down yesterday, so that deadline is going to be hotter than Buster Poindexter in 1986. That's right. And if you don't understand what that is, go Google it, baby. I got you, everybody. Also, I see people joining us for the first time still. It is July 23rd. People joining us in the Peanuts and the Cracker Jacks. Andres, welcome to the program for the first time live. And, of course, you could join us all the time, Monday through Friday, live right here on Fantasy Pros MLB to catch Leading Off. And, obviously, a wild game in Boston last night. Some surprising pitching performances, Dan, from a DFS slate that scared the bejesus out of us. But, apparently, Blake Snell can pitch on the road after all.
Yeah, that was a little surprising. I get that it was the Marlins, but he went 6 innings. That was a little surprising there. He had 8 Ks. Oddly enough, he didn't have a ton of swinging strikes. So this is not a giant paradigm shift in the Blake Snell story or anything like that. I'm willing to kind of forget about this one a little bit. I think he should have a 2-start week next week. I think it's at home, so I'd probably start him in that case. But if you can somehow, quote unquote, sell high on Blake Snell after the start, I would certainly do it.
All right, let's talk about the deal that everybody's talking about. And, you know, I sat down last night, this is a true story, to watch Lego Masters with the kids on the DVR. We're big fans of the Lego Masters here at the Pisapia household. And I sit down and I look at my phone and I see, Nelson Cruz traded. That's my home run call. And not, 30 seconds even later, I get a Discord mention. Joe Pisapia, Cruz got traded. He's probably out of the lineup. Who are you going to have? And I'm like, thank you. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Yeah. Of course, I picked somebody else before it didn't work, but still,
whatever.
That's the kind of family this is. This is a family. This is a community. I love the Peanuts and the Cracker Jacks. I love this crew here. And yes, it's a great group of people, and that's just a great example. But yes, Nelson Cruz dealt to the Rays. I think the Rays need pitching. Maybe I'm crazy, Dan. I understand they absolutely need offense too. Hopefully they're not done. This is just a move, not the move. But certainly when you look at this lineup right now, Nelson Cruz in the middle of it absolutely changes the dynamic. He's also a phenomenal clubhouse guy. Also brings a bit of experience too, which I think this team kind of needs a little bit. They could use a veteran leader. Last year, I think it showed a little bit when they got into the playoffs and World Series at certain times. Although they played so well, they kind of were missing that guy. Nelson Cruz is that dude.
Yeah, I like the trade actually from both sides. I agree with you though. They clearly need pitching. I'm sure they're not done. This is not going to be the only move. But Cruz is good for several reasons. Number one, he's a great clubhouse guy. As sort of you mentioned, the veteran leadership, he brings that for sure. There's been very little decline in his numbers despite the advancing age. Now, the Rays, as you mentioned, they have a very solid offense. They're 7th in the league in runs scored. So you're like, why are they adding a giant power hitter? Because it's the Rays. They're not that great against lefties, by the way, which Cruz crushes. I don't think it changes his value, by the way, Joe. I don't know about you. I don't really I'm not going to move him in my rankings. I think it's pretty much an even swap for him. My one worry is the Rays are going to Ray, and they could occasionally be like, look, we're gonna put you in the lineup, 5 days a week or something like that. I'm hoping they just leave him in his DH spot. They've been playing Austin Meadows for the most part in their DH spot, so it's not as if they are trying to give an older player a rest or something. But yeah, it's a good deal for the Rays. It was a good deal for the Twins with the prospects they got back. And I think his value stays pretty much the same.
All right, let's get to the ups. Fernando Tatis Jr. becomes the fastest by number of games to reach 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. Do you want to know who the last National League shortstop to lead the NL in home runs in a season was? Any guess on who that was, perhaps? Anybody in the recesses of your mind? He is a Hall of Famer. He's an all-time great. Think
Ernie Banks?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Well done. Ooh. Look at you. Look at you. Well done. Kim earns his 5th straight win for the Cards on his birthday, beat the Cubs. And Sean Manaea, career high 13 Ks. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, that was a game yesterday. We were both kind of a little antsy about this game. Yeah. Seattle plays well. Manaea so far had been a little shaky around the break, but obviously dusted off right there. The A's of that team, Dan, is just always going to hang around. I bet they're active too. A lot of people thought Cruz was going to end up there. But I still think Javi Baez is their guy. They got to fix shortstop because Elvis Andrus did not get it done. That move was a disaster for them this year.
I didn't hate that move when they made it, but
I didn't either, but I can hate it now.
I'm somebody who basically will go to it'll be on my tombstone, will be like, here lies Dan Harris. He defended Elvis Andrus for his entire life. I don't know why. I think it's like one of the first years I played fantasy. It was like this guy, he had that 1 year where he totally broke out and hit for power, right? Yeah, they need to do something. I'm looking up the standings right now. No big deal. They are 2.5 games behind the Astros. And that's great because you always feel like the Astros are kind of like taking it for granted that they're going to win that division. The A's are right there. Manaea has had a really remarkable season. And again, you don't expect these giant strikeout games from him, even against the Mariners necessarily. But he does have a 26.5% strikeout rate. That's way above his career mark. So, yeah, this is kind of a breakout year. They will make some deals for sure. The trade deadline, Joe, we mentioned it before. You look at the NL West, right? All three of those teams are right there. The Dodgers are dying. They need some infusion. This trade deadline is going to be awesome. I hope it's not all on July 31st. I hope next week you and I can like every day come in and be like, look at this, amazing. But it's going to be awesome. Right? If you love baseball, get ready. It's going to be
It's going to be a lot, especially because all these teams want to jettison payroll before the CBA coming up.
Also
so
true.
That's going to be the very and again, this is I'm sorry I got to be the buzzkill business of baseball guy on the show, but it's going to be fascinating to see which teams really do want to take on extra payroll, which don't. The guys, even if the guys are like a $7 million guy for 2 months, is more appealing possibly than the guy who has another year on their deal. So just keep that in mind, that money might not be the object right now. It might be years, might be the more stumbling block problem for some of these deals to happen. All right, where there's ups, there's also downs. The Yankees bullpen, oh boy, Chad Green blows a save, and then Krispy Kreme gets creamed there. 4 wild pitches in the 10th, and I just want to say, at least one, the second one especially, if not 2, really should have been handled by the catcher. Like, I get it, but I mean, he literally drops down, the ball is right in front of him. He should be able to corral the ball. I get it. The guy was wild. One of them was absolutely, I mean, the one that went like 20 feet in front of him, I was just like, oh my gosh, what a horrible moment that is. But that Yankee bullpen, Dan, I don't know. I don't know if I want to put the fork in the Yankees just yet, but it feels like my fork is raised in the air. It's raised in the air. It's right about here. Perhaps it's like this, and I'm holding it like this, like a supervillain, but I'm just about ready to do it.
I don't usually feel bad for the Yankees or their fans. Obviously, growing up as a Mets fan, watching all my friends from Queens defect to the Yankees while I held firm in the 90s, I don't usually feel bad. That was really, really painful. And so this is how it works, just so you know, everybody. I stay up late, as you guys know. I put in the notes, a lot of notes, late in the night and stuff like that. And that one, it was going to extra innings. I was going to bed. And I was like, you know what? As I'm going to bed, I'm just going to have this game on right now. Let's see. I like Matt Barnes.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I texted Mayor and Tuma, and I was like, I don't remember seeing this before. I remember seeing 4 wild pitches in an inning. I think that was probably the first time. If it makes you feel better, Joe, I think he probably had some wild pitches before when after Bogart scored or whatever. That don't count as wild pitches because nobody was on base. So he probably would have had them anyway, even if the catcher had made the correct play there. But that was just nuts. Chapman unavailable. Yeah. But, I mean, Green and that kid, just horrible to watch.
Oh, not good. Not good at all. Like I said, the fork is hanging like the sword of Damocles. Yerman Mercedes, not to be confused with Damocles, who is also, I think, a AA player for the Chicago White Sox. But Mercedes is back after stepping away and retiring for a few hours. This was kind of like, I mean, I kind of saw this coming. I think we all kind of saw this coming. It was nice of La Russa to be like, look, I'm going to call the guy. He's been very emotional about it. And this is hard as a career minor leaguer. You get a taste of the big leagues, and then all of a sudden you're not there anymore. And 28 years old is old when you've been playing baseball in the minor leagues for a decade. You know what I'm saying? Like that's tough. So it's a down and then up. It's a down only because I don't like the fact that he walked away. He should have just taken a deep breath and said, hey, I was just there in April. I just need to reassert myself. If you're going to walk away, walk away. I don't like hedging back and forth. I don't care for it. Kenley, Jansen, 4 earned runs, gives up another game to the Giants. Ooh, bullpens is bad right now. And Kenley Jansen's been, for all the nonsense and difficulty we give so many closers, Kenley Jansen over the last 5 years is about as good as it gets. He's gotten almost all of the saves, and I mean literally all of the saves for the Dodgers, right? So the Dodgers kind of can ill afford with the Betts injury, with the Bellinger injury, to blow any leads, with the Kershaw injury, all this stuff going on. So what are your thoughts here with Kenley Jansen and the Dodgers?
I am nervous. I kind of defended him coming into the year because just for the exact reasons you said, for at least the last 2 years, maybe longer, it has always been, he's going to lose his job. Kenley Jansen. He's on the verge. He's right on the verge. And in the end of the year, maybe not in the playoffs, but throughout the year, he gets every single save for a dominant team. It's a great position to be in. I get that he's older now. I get that the velocity isn't there, but he was phenomenal this entire year. And since the All-Star break, obviously it's been 3 games, but he's given up whatever it is, 8 runs, or this is bad.
It's magnified because it's the Giants. Because it's the Giants, it's worse.
And this is a team right now, right? If when you're the Dodgers and you're off the World Series and your future is incredibly bright, you can be patient, but this is a really, really tough time to just be like, I'm going to let this guy work it out, right? I'm going to let this guy work it out. When you've got somebody like Craig Kimbrell, who's been super dominant and just sitting there, that you can add and become your closer. So if I roster Kimbrell, there's not much you can do about it right now, but I really do feel like unless there's a miraculous turnaround, this is finally going to be the year that it cracks, that he's not going to be the guy who holds down. I think they're going to make a trade. And I think he's on the verge of losing that job.
Wow, it's a lot to take in. I need a good story. I need a feel-good story. So let's go to Grand Rapids, Michigan, because I saw this on my Facebook newsfeed yesterday. 82 years young, Phil Clements, still playing baseball, 82 years old, threw a complete game against players half his age. This guy's out there. I saw him. I saw the footage of it. There's video of this from the local news. He's 82 years old. He still plays in a men's hardball league at 82. He's still pitching. The guy looks great. Goes the distance, Dan. Goes the distance. Everybody, y'all should be ashamed in Major League Baseball. Phil Clements is 82 years old. He probably, when he puts his cleats on, he probably makes noise just to go, to put his cleats on. And he's going out there and throwing complete games. That's a tough guy right there. So Phil Clements, well done. Mentioned you on the show today. I love that. I want to be old and playing men's hardball leagues. I want to do that. I mean, I'm old now and I don't, but
right.
Eventually when, the kids are grown and I've got nothing else to do, I think that's what I should go do with my life.
I mean, my kid was like, Dad, I want to see how it is to hit like a real fastball, throw it as hard as you can. And I don't have a real fastball, but I threw it basically as hard as I can, and I couldn't move my arm for a week. So this dude is like my hero at this point. But that's awesome. I want to know what the velocity read. Give me a radar gun on that 82-year-old and see how fast he can throw.
The best was his interview. They said, "Well, what's your approach?" He's like, "Well, I'm going to try to throw it, and hopefully somebody catches it."
Yep. Look, tell them that the Dodgers need a new closer. You never know.
The Yankees
Get in there.
could use some bullpen help too.
There you go.
Geez, you don't have to go 9. Oh, my goodness. Mark says, by the way, does Fantasy Pros have a good retirement package? I don't know. I'm never retiring, so don't worry about that. All right, Thursday standouts. We talked about the pitchers yesterday. Charlie Morton against the Phillies, 8 Ks, 2 runs. Yep. He was great. We talked about Kim with his 7 Ks against the Cubs. Dansby Swanson, Country Club himself, grand slam. Yesterday talked about him on the show. I forget which peanut said it, but well done there. Andrew frickin' Heaney and his 5.5 ERA gave up 2 runs yesterday. Yesterday was the upside down. It was terrible. Kenta Maeda, 6 Ks against the Angels. The Franimal, 3-run home run, his 6th home run in the month of July. Let me tell you, boys and girls, tonight there's so many good home run calls. If it's Altuve, if it's Franimal, whatever it is just littered. I could not decide. It was so difficult.
Yes.
There's so many good options out there tonight because of the matchups that are on the hill. Jordan Montgomery, 6 Ks, 5 2/3 shutout innings, but it didn't matter for the Yankees. Tanner Houck, 4 2/3, almost got to that 5th, but he did have 8 Ks. Chris Meany, actually, and I were talking about Tanner Houck earlier in the week, and nice opportunity there for him. Big start there. Walker Buehler, 9 Ks, 1 earned run. He was brilliant. He deserved better, but then again, what does deserve mean after all? 2.31 ERA on the season, but no decision for him. Sean Manaea's huge performance. Blake Snell. This is really big here for the Padres. I know it's only the Marlins, but if Blake Snell can get right, that's very important. And Mark Melancon shuts things down with his 29th save. League leading, baby. Old Man River getting it done. The duds, Cody Bellinger, another 0 for 4. Jared Kelenic, another 0 for 3. He's 3 for 23 now. Your thoughts on Jared Kelenic? Everybody just leave him alone. He'll be fine, I think. I think he's his own worst enemy, to be honest.
I think what they should do is leave him up. It's hard because they're not really like out of it. They're sort of on the edge of competing. But I'm looking up again, and I will say this: Mayer and Tuma always finding somebody. He's basically, since he's come up, he's basically faced almost all lefties going into last night. He had 20 at bats, 13 of them came against lefties, and he faced Sean Manaea yesterday. So you want to give him a little bit of a pass for this. At the same time, it's really bad. It is really bad now where you're like, you go to AAA and you absolutely rake, and you come up to the majors and you absolutely can't hit. It's just got to do a number on his confidence, regardless of if it's coming up against lefties or not. So, look, I want to be optimistic.
Hit robbed yesterday, if memory serves.
Yeah, no, but this
like,
is what
as
happens.
long as you're hitting the ball solid, who cares? Like, this is when you need it. This is, you know what, Dan? When managers in baseball become these button pushers, and you don't have the guy, like the old Blackjack McKeon type dudes who put their arm around a guy and, hey, kid, don't worry about it. Come on, we're going to go out and have a couple beers tonight. It'll be fine. You're hitting the ball in the nose. It'll all be fine. Like, you need that kind of manager still. You need the people person. Like, you can't just push buttons in baseball. It doesn't work. Ask Kevin Cash. Okay?
No.
I'm just saying,
I'm not, we don't know though what their plan is with Kelenic. There is a psychological component to the entire thing where you're a kid. He's come up twice now. And he's been terrible both times. You just look. If I'm the GM, you're out there. Unless you ask out of the lineup, you're in that lineup every single 100%. Day. Figure it out. So hopefully that's what they'll do. They're 5 games over 500 miraculously. So they're still on the periphery. So to the extent they want to be like, we need our best lineup, and Kelenic's not it. Fine, be dumb. I would just leave him out there. Let him figure it out as long as he wants to be out there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, here's a question again. We're going to answer the question.
Yeah.
This is an important question here. Stephen James wants to know, do I drop Trevor Bauer? I say this depends. If you're in a 10-team league and there's a lot of replacement value and you are just desperate for pitching right now, okay. Like, fine, I get it. The problem is I don't know where that pitcher's coming from. I say probably not. I say you just have to kind of bite the bullet, hold and wait and see what happens there. And I think you'll have an answer for that in the next couple days. When I had Craig Mish on the BP show, I asked him kind of a similar question. I was like, look, I know I'm not putting you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot. In your estimation, you're a baseball insider guy. This is what you do for a living. I know you probably don't have information on this, but what do you think about it? And he said something very astute, which is watch what the Dodgers do at the deadline. If they acquire another starting pitcher, that tells you probably the future of Trevor Bauer this season. If they don't, that tells you there's a good chance they think they're going to have him back at some point in August or September. And I thought that was a very good way to put it, and I figured I would bring that over here just in case people didn't listen to that show. Dan, what are your thoughts on that?
Everyone should listen to that show. Always, you know that. But yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. I think if someone dropped him, I don't know that I'd rush out there to pick him up because I think realistically I'm not expecting him to start for the rest of the year. That's just where I'm coming from based on what I've seen. But if you have to make a move and you have to a lot of people are struggling to fill out a lineup right now. So if you have to do that and you drop him, I think it's okay to do that. I think the Dodgers are probably going to add pitching regardless because they have Kershaw. Julio Urias is on pace for like 700 innings at some point. They need an extra arm regardless. But if you have to do it, fine. But I agree with you, Joe, that all things being equal, I'd probably just hold until I get some resolution of this situation.
Do you think Max Scherzer is going to go?
It's a great question. Maybe. I mean, Joe, if you're a team that has a legitimate chance right now, you've got to be willing to basically say, I know it's 1 year. Maybe I can re-sign him. I know it's just the rest of this year, but you've got to be willing to give up major. That's a complete difference maker. You've got to be willing to give up major prospects for him, right?
Like he hasn't pitched well in the last couple outings either.
He's
so
fine.
I don't know if that's mentally
quiet. I mean, that's true. He is that like
well in the last 2
but his not that well is like a normal.
I know,
right?
But still, I was looking at the stats yesterday because we were looking at waiver wire. We had to do our little waiver wire thingy at FantasyPros, and
of course,
I was just sorting through the stats of the last 2 weeks, and I was like, ugh. Why is Max Scherzer at the top of earned run average? In
so
that
what's going to be interesting though, Joe, is like we sort of said, is how many teams are in it. And right now, I feel like it's a seller's market, right? Because all 3 teams in the West in the NL West are going for it. Okay, they're all looking to buy. Okay, the Mets clearly looking to buy. I don't know if anybody in the NL East is going to look to buy with this. Maybe the Phillies. probably the Phillies. The Braves are only 4 games back, but you assume without Acuna, they're just going to take a step back and everything like that. The Brewers are probably on the verge of running away with this, given the fact that Castellanos is going to be out for at least a few weeks. But you've got both the Astros and the Athletics. The Rays, as we mentioned, I'm sure the Red Sox are going to try to do something. Yeah, a lot of people buying. So, yeah, I did use my dad voice, Mark. Thank you for pointing that out. That dad voice comes out all day long when I'm home.
When did you do it? I don't even notice. As one dad to another, I didn't even...
Right. You're immune to the dad voice. You're immune to the dad voice, but everybody else got it. Yeah. So again, this is going to be a fascinating trade deadline, as I mentioned, but I kind of do think Scherzer's going to get moved. Although, look, we've seen the Nationals, right? The Nationals have done the thing where they've gone on this crazy run in the second half. They're only 6 games out.
I don't know.
A lot might depend on the next
I think you got to get realistic and be like, look, and they just won a title a couple years ago. All right, let's go to the rest of the things here. Nick Castellanos should be sidelined for a couple weeks. Told you so yesterday. I was just trying to get everybody aware. If there was another day we could have picked up somebody useful, in those daily trans leagues. Mookie Betts, probably like an IL stint looking. Gary Sanchez misses yesterday's game with general soreness. Frenchie Cordero, Danny Santana with the groin in the IL, Max Muncy, and Mitch Garver also both go to the paternity list. Not together. That's not the same baby. Just want to point that out for everybody, just because I could understand how people might take that the wrong way. Different babies, different mamas. I assume. Justin Upton off the IL, and Taylor Ward was optioned down to AAA. Yesterday, the home run calls, only 4 home run calls last night. It was a short slate. But Randy is on fire. He called a home run in 3 straight days. Look at that. He's now tied with Wonky Penguin and Joey P at second place for 17. Luke Pancakes, his brother Kevin French Toast, also in the Mike McKinley. See, I can make dad jokes like you and you'll laugh.
That's a good one, actually. Yeah, I'll take that.
And Owl Righty have all called home runs on back-to-back days now as well. So D. Gordon Liddy's still at 18. Number 2 spot getting crowded. Randy, Wonky, and me at 17. Brick JB
By the way,
at 14.
Did you notice the dinger bot? I mean, it didn't have a ton of room to work on.
I was going to say it didn't really do much, but yes.
But it did. It worked. It's great. Fantastic. Way to go, Riley.
It's amazing. Honestly, and that's the kind of technology that they could use more of at Manscaped too, because they're doing some really good things at Manscaped, but maybe you need like a bot that tells you are too hairy, and it needs you to go ahead and take care of your business. And when that bot does, wake you up in the morning with that alert on your phone, make sure that you get to manscaped.com, go get that Lawnmower 4.0. It is probably the next rise of the machines anyway, so you might as well have one in your house just to protect you from the other machines that might come. But look, the Lawnmower 4.0, clearly the advanced skin safe technology, the new guard lengths 1 through 4, so you can, if you're going out with the friends to the game and you're going to be shirtless and you're going to be one of the letters where you all take your shirt off, you can do that. You could do the different fades, all the different things, whatever kind of artwork you want to do, the Lawnmower 4.0 is there for you. And don't forget about the longest battery life in the history of battery lives for trimmers as well. But you need to use that code leading off, our code leading off, 20% off, free shipping can be yours at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. And also don't forget, go to fantasypros.com/MLB contest. Thanks to our friends at Pristine Auction. We're giving away that Shane Bieber jersey. Only a few days left of that. So get in while the getting's good. Let's get over to our DFS slate. A weird one today. Lots of head-to-head matchups. Garrett Cole is at the top as the cash game arm. He's been very good lately. 10.5 over on FanDuel, 10 on DK. Let's start there. He's going against Eduardo Rodriguez in Boston. My concern is the bullpen costing him the win, and that costing me a pay line. Your thoughts, Dan Harris?
I'm going to trust him. And the reason is, after a loss like that, Garrett Cole.
You need Garrett Cole to be Garrett Cole.
You need Garrett Cole, and he knows it. And he's the type of guy who I'm like, when you need Garrett, it's like Scherzer a little bit in this. Right. Like, they're maniacs.
That's what the greats do. That's what
the greats do. And Garrett Cole is great. And I think that he is going to step up here. And I think that he's going to be a guy who's going to be like, you need 130 pitches today? I gotcha. And I agree. Chapman, though, as rough as Chapman has been, he's certainly a step up from what we saw yesterday. He's been a little better, I guess, lately. So I'm going to go with him. Eduardo Rodriguez, by the way, has not been bad of late.
No,
and the Yankees line, he hasn't. So that's a little worrisome. But still, this strikes me. Everything about this strikes me as Garrett Cole's going to go out there and just shove. And so I'm willing to roll with him in this one.
All right. Joe Musgrove is pretty cheap on FanDuel, 7.9K. We saw what happened yesterday, so it's a matter of, do you want to keep rolling along? I think the answer might be yes. He's 8.4 on DK. I think Musgrove's got to be in play as a secondary arm or GPP arm tonight on FanDuel. Zach Plesac on the mound, 7.473, also very cheap. Franimal, look, he's got the lefty tonight. Franimal, just consider the Franimal. That's all I'm going to say. Consider the Franimal. The guy's just, he's a beast. Washington versus Baltimore is a place I think you want to look for runs today. You got Patrick Corbin and Lopez on the mound, I believe. That's going to be one where it's going to be some runs. It's a nice total there already. I don't think that's going to disappoint. Now you got a bunch of the 4 outcome games. You got Max Fried against Zach Wheeler. Wheeler being more expensive, obviously, than Fried. But Wheeler has not pitched great in the last few outings either. I think there's some money to be made in tournaments tonight with Fried. Fried, who is just 8.1 on both sides. Fried and Musgrove, very cheap, which allows you to get the hitting. There's going to be a high totals tonight. I'm telling you right now, just across the board, a lot of high totals. I would seriously consider going cheaper on pitcher tonight if you can make it work. Lucas Giolito's at 9.8 and 9.6 against Freddie Peralta at 9.3 and 9.9. I just hate the Brewers lineup. I just don't think they can match up against Giolito. I would lean the Giolito side of this one. And then you have Montas 8.6, 8.7 against Kikuchi 8.9, 7.8. What are your thoughts on the Fried, Wheeler, Giolito, Peralta, and Kikuchi Montas matchups tonight? Because that's pretty much, you got to make a choice somewhere.
Yeah, I kind of like Wheeler because I think that with his price and given how he's pitched lately, and given the fact that I think the Braves, like, their lineup still has this aura of invincibility, because I don't think the casual DFS player processes how much the loss of Ronald Acuna really means. You just think, oh yeah, the Braves, not a team I usually target. I think this could be, it's a big game for the Phillies at both these teams, but I think Wheeler's going to step up here. And I don't think he's going to be that owned because his price is pretty high and he's been a little weak lately. So I'm kind of trusting him for the Brewers. And the White Sox, I completely agree with you. I will go with Giolito there. Again, we talked about Peralta now has been off for what, 9 days? This is a long layoff here, right? This is what we talked about.
You've been on that, dude.
I fade that all day long, every time in regular season-long fantasy baseball. I mean, if you roster Peralta, you're starting him. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him a little off right now. I will absolutely go with Giolito against that lineup. And I don't mind trusting Montas. Kikuchi's been a little hit or miss, lately. Montas,
he had a really good run there, and now he's been a little bit human lately.
And it was basically right after I was like, who I haven't given enough credit to? You say Kikuchi. That's like, all right, right? That's how it works for us.
Completely.
But I've been a Montas fan but coming into the year, I've kind of stuck with him despite the fact that he's had a lot of ups and downs. He's looked good lately. I've liked what I've seen from him. So against the Mariners, again, I think this could be a solid start. But again, my favorites out of all those, given when you consider the price, is Giolito, because I do think that there's going to be, I think Peralta may struggle a little bit here. And against that lineup, I will basically take most pitchers.
They're just gross. There's actually a trap on the slate too. And Jay Full actually bring this up. He's like, I like Molly tonight against the St. Louis lineup. Molly has not been good, and he's also a 5-inning pitcher at best. So you have to understand the win equity in DFS. I would not advise against. It's one thing when Tyler Molly's on a short slate, and like earlier in the year he was dropping like 10 Ks in 5 innings, and you just take the Ks and run at like an 8K salary, right? I mean, it's true. Don't die over Tyler Molly, please. Don't die. Dan Harris is dying. But at any rate, that's a trap tonight. He hasn't pitched well. The win equity isn't there, so I would avoid him tonight. I think that's lighting money on fire, and I don't like to light anybody's money on fire except Dan.
Well, don't
Harris.
Forget, by the way, without Castellanos as well, like that lineup just is not very in the win equity of it.
Point too.
So I agree.
All right. Speaking of the lineups, let's get to some of the lineup builders here on FanDuel. Pavin Smith 2.6 in that Reds lineup against the lefty Aristides Aquino. At 2.2, he's home run or nothing, so why not at 2.2 use him? Brendan Rodgers also at the top of that Rockies lineup, 2.3. Trevor Larnach, 2.1. He's going to be the cleanup hitter now going forward. No Nelson Cruz. He's going to be the dude. He's only 2.1, by the way, on FanDuel. Miles Straw, 2.2. Over on DK, Aristides Aquino, also cheap there, 2.7. Santander, 2.2. Straw, 2.1. Larnach, 3K. And Hunter Dozier, who's had a very quietly good second half, is at 3.1. It's weekend dinger time, and I told you, there's so many. Oh, my goodness. Jose Altuve is actually like 7K on FanDuel today. He's so expensive because it's a matchup against a lefty, and he's just crushing lefties, and he's hitting out of his mind right now. You could go there. You can go Franimal, but it's the weekend. And when I see those matchups in Camden Yards and I look at what's ahead for the Nationals, it's going to be a Juan weekend again. It's going to be a weekend with a J for me, starring Juan Soto for tonight, for tomorrow, and for Saturday. And I just don't care. I so many other ways you could go. They really are, but I'm just going to go that route. So, Dan, where are you going?
That's the correct pick. I mean, when I looked at this, I was like,
what's coming this weekend too? You're like,
I glossed over Soto because I was like, I know Joe is going to take Soto, which you should. Again, we have to make the calls because we give the Peanuts and the Cracker Jacks the ability to pick a new person every single day. Joe and I don't do that. We make our weekend call. So for the full weekend, you kind of got to go chalk. And I missed it last week. I was thinking of Vladdy, but I do not want to have him rooting for home runs against the Mets. I just decided not to. So I'll go with another.
That should be a lock.
Right. But it should be, but I don't want to be rooting for it. Because, by the way, P.S., when I do make a call against the Mets, I find myself rooting for the home runs. I think it was Votto against the Mets that time. And I was like, come on. Meanwhile, it would lose them the game. And that's horrible when that overtakes. Anyway, I'm going with Tatis again, who I went with yesterday for the weekend. Against the Marlins, just give me Fernando Tatis. Give me a couple. Let me get back in the game here.
Pickles, give me a break. Tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. Okay? If I said Saturday, give me a break. It's Friday. You know how many podcasts I do in a week?
Pickles is like one of the guys
Pickles,
who like
I can order the show without you. I can just get mustard. I can get ketchup. I can get lettuce. Pickles. I don't need pickles. Pickles can be removed from the burger at any given time. But we're not going to remove you, Pickles, because you're fun. All right. Any other final thoughts here, Dan, as we close out the weekend? Waiver wire thoughts. I've been telling people to pick up Dalton Varsho. Catcher eligible. He's been hitting really well. I think that's a guy to pick up this weekend. And God knows he's going to have at-bats in Arizona probably going forward.
Yes.
Keller's a good pickup, too. Those are the two guys I wrote about. How about you?
That's a great call, by the way, with Varsho, because I don't think we've mentioned him at all. Mm-hmm. He's definitely a guy who I think fantasy managers should be looking at. We didn't talk about him, but Adbert Alzolay had a really solid start against the Cardinals. Nothing crazy or anything like that, but he should be a 2-star pitcher next week. I like generally what I've seen from him. Jordan Montgomery, by the way, we also didn't mention, he has 0 runs of support. I think Mayer can check me on that, but 0 runs of support in his last 5 starts. That's not a joke. 0 runs of support. Gross. But he's been very, very solid overall. And the other guy who I didn't mention yet, we mentioned him yesterday, another huge hit yesterday, Kike Hernandez leading off for the Red Sox. I mean, it's not just against lefties anymore. That's the thing. He's hitting everybody. So he's eligible at second, eligible in the outfield. He's still available in a lot of leagues. I would look to pick him up because I think that he's going to provide value rest of the season.
Yeah, the Red Sox right now are looking like a good team. I mean, I know they're getting games handed to them, but that's also part of it. Like, good teams have things go their way.
And Sale, as we talked about.
That's the addition. That's the one thing that they can add that nobody else can.
And we don't talk about him. I talk about him with Mayer and Tuma all the time, is Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes right now. And I was wondering whether or not, because he looked a little iffy after the sticky stuff, the crackdown on the sticky stuff, because suddenly a guy who struggles with his control has great control all year. He looked a little iffy, but he's gotten it together. It's a dominant closer, and Ottavino's been good. They're really scary. If Sale does come back and is healthy, them and the Astros, let's see what happens.
All right, don't forget to join us in Discord, again at fantasypros.com/chat to make your home run calls, and follow us and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Fantasy Pros MLB. Click that notifications button. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Dan Harris, I'm Joey P. Have a great weekend.